Hey, welcome back to The Dive. Our guest today will deep dive into helium from the supply, demand, and overall market, as well as the company's overview, their plans, exploration, balance sheet, and what investors should look out for over the near term. He is the president, CEO, and director of First Helium. Ed Bereznicki is joining us today. But before we bring Ed on, do me one quick favor and just go ahead and smash that subscribe button, please. Hey, Ed, welcome to The Dive.
Hi, Cassandra. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're so glad you could make it. Okay, so helium is often an overlooked commodity, and its market is mostly hidden behind closed doors. What can you tell us about the overall helium market? And can the market support additional supply?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Most people, when they think of helium, associate it with, of course, party balloons and that sort of thing. And the reality is, helium is an indispensable element that's used in so many facets of everyday life, including industrial, scientific, medical, and even into space exploration, for example. Um, One of the most important uses of helium that people may be familiar with is it's used in its liquid form as a cooling agent for MRI machines. So anyone who's had that type of diagnostic work would be familiar with it. So helium is found, or it originates in the Earth's crust. It's a product of the decay of uranium and thorium. It percolates up to the Earth's surface and stores there. And helium is generally explored for just as you would for oil and gas, and produced alongside gases. So in terms of the global market for helium, it continues to grow, and the biggest sectors in growth include high tech. Again, indispensable in the manufacture and fabrication of semiconductor chips, and we use those in every facet of our lives. Also, an emerging area of use for helium is in small reactors, so small nuclear reactors, many whom feel that that may be part of the transition to a non-fossil, greener energy environment. Um, so the market, it wavers from time to time globally, but the trend is upward as we bring on these newer areas of use, Cassandra.
Mm-hmm. So what additional use cases do you think could have the most material impact to helium markets over the next decade?
Yeah, so I touched on a couple of them. In particular, the small modular reactors, the tech sector in every facet, and the other emerging use as we begin to put more satellites into space, explore space even further. Helium is used as a really a cleaning or purging gas for rocket engines, and so we'll continue to use it there. And the reason is it's a very inert gas. One of its key properties is that it doesn't react with other agents, other chemicals, fuels, that sort of thing. And so very much used in space exploration.
So for our guests new to your story, what's the high-level overview for First Helium?
First Helium is an exploration and development company. We look for helium to bring into production. We have two key properties in Alberta, Canada. Um, our first property in Northern Alberta has one helium well that's ready to produce. We hope to bring that into production Q1 next year, is the current target. And we also, during the course of our exploration for helium, came across two light oil wells, which we're bringing into production. And we're using the cash flow from those oil wells to fund our ongoing exploration and development. In southern Alberta, we have some very good exploration prospects that are close by or near some existing helium production, and some of our peers who are operating down in the southern part of Canada and along the US-Canada border.
So we have to ask, with everything going on in the world, ranging from the pandemic to the Russia-Ukraine crisis, do these events impact your plans with First Helium at all?
No, not really. In fact, it serves to support our business plan, Cassandra. Um, from a helium perspective, Russia was a big producer of helium. In fact, they brought on a new plant last September, and they had some issues with it. The plant went down. Um, and on top of that, with the current Ukraine situation, there's some thought and talk, anecdotally at least, that the timing of that plant coming back on is well into 2023 potentially. So um, currently there's a demand for helium that's not being met. There's a supply shortage. So for smaller companies who are exploring and developing helium, such as ourselves, it's a great opportunity. Um, also global oil prices that really started to rise well before the Ukraine situation have created a situation for us where we're able to sell our oil for good prices that help us to, again, continue to fund our exploration development program.
So now the company announced completion and the testing of a second exploration at the Worsley property. The well flowed 467 barrels per day and represented an oil cut of 67%. How does this impact the exploration plans, and do you have a timeline for when you expect to be bringing the well into production?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second question first. I think we communicated in our recent press release that we were hoping to bring that well on, or targeting early Q2. I think we're still on track for that timing. So investors should look out for that press release along that time frame. In terms of how does this impact our exploration plans going forward, it gives us, we forecast obviously some more cash flow from this well to help us with our ongoing exploration and development of helium. And it also sets up for other potential wells on our property that might include oil. So quite excited about the dual commodity strategy that we're able to bring to investors now, Cassandra.
Mm-hmm. Now, you published a change to the company's balance sheet based on ongoing payments from light oil production and approximately $3.2 million in cash proceeds from the exercise of previously issued warrants. Where will these funds be deployed, and how sustainable is the revenue?
Right. So in terms of the funds themselves, they'll be directed to the Worsley property. So there's ongoing exploration and development work that needs to be done there. In Northern Alberta, and generally in Alberta, we have what's called spring breakup. So after the winter freeze and the roads start to thaw out, we're not allowed to move heavy equipment such as drilling rigs and other such equipment. So typically there's a month or two where we don't drill. So we would expect to be back in the field at Worsley, continuing to drill in the June time frame. In terms of, the second part of the question, sustainability. So the 4 of 29, the most recent well that we'd be hoping to bring into production here over the next while, because it has only flow tested for 48 hours, we'll see how sustainable that well looks on an ongoing basis. But if we look to its sister well, the one of 30, the first well we brought on, that well has produced flat for over 2 months now. So we're really excited about what we see there, both in terms of volume deliverability and how long we believe this well will flow flat before we see any meaningful decline. All oil wells eventually decline, of course, but so far we're seeing very good production out of the 1 to 30, and again, we hope to see similar results out of the 4 of 29 once we're able to bring it on and share those results with people.
Okay, so Ed, one more thing before we let you go here. Are there any other timelines or metrics that we didn't touch on that investors should watch out for with First Helium over the near term?
Yeah, I would think that continue to watch the cash flow from our oil properties in as much as they fund our ongoing, almost self-fund our exploration and development program, which is fantastic. From a catalyst perspective, I would ask investors to watch for announcement of bringing on the 4 of 29 well. Also look for some updates from ongoing production at the 1 of 30 well. One thing we didn't talk about is we're asking our reserve engineers, our independent third-party evaluation engineers, to do an analysis of all 3 wells, in fact. And so we'll be sharing some third-party evaluation and engineering reports with people in May timeframe. And I guess the last thing is we'll be giving greater clarity to the market at some point over the next month and a half as to what our drill program looks like for June, as I had highlighted earlier, Cassandra.
Okay, great. Well, lots to look forward to with First Helium then definitely coming into the near term. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ed. It's been so nice to hear your story.
Thanks for having me on the deep dive, Cassandra. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We'll be back on Monday with the latest in small cap news coverage, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out.